Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bernice, and I read stories from Reddit. Sometimes they're spooky, sometimes they're not. I tend to go for PG-13 type of scary stuff. Without further ado, I'm just gonna read these 3 stories that I found on Reddit. The first one that I'm gonna read is actually pretty creepy, and the third one that I'm going to read is when I first read it through, I was like, I don't get it, and then towards the end I was like, I get it. Our neighborhood has always been typical white picket fence suburbia on the outside. Every generation, new young couples move in to replace the older people who have finally left after a lifetime of the same lawns, the same friendly faces. It's always been an idyllic setting in which to raise a family and turn old and gray. Everyone here knows each other. Most have since they were kids, moving into their parents' home once their parents decided it was time to finish out the year somewhere else. I'm an oddball because I'm a transparent. None of my family has been able to afford the houses in this area. I've always driven by with my mom in her beaten up station wagon, oogling the beautiful homes and the landscapes and luscious green trees. I grew up and was the first in my family to go to college. I didn't waste the opportunity afforded to me, and I got a nice cushy job, a caring and kind wife, and a couple of kids. The little American dream was my life. Was finally wrapped up in a tight little bow when at the closing I was handed the keys to my own slice of paradise. We've only been here for a week, but when I realized just how odd my neighbors were. At first I thought it was just because I was a stranger interfering in their bubble, but the bubble itself seemed to have burst altogether. I began to notice that when the neighbors waved to each other while doing their respective yard work, it was a little too forceful. An accompanying grimace painted across their faces that they tried to sell as a smile. The knocking at our door was slightly too insistent, and the handshakes they gave to welcome us to the neighborhood was just a bit too firm. Their hair was just a tad too perfect. Their eyes were blank. I began to catch them unshamelessly staring at my family and I whenever we ventured out the front door, their neighborly facade seemingly beginning to crack. They were just staring with the same dead eyes I began to grow accustomed to, and every time I returned their gaze, I felt my muscles tense and had an overwhelming urge to put as much distance between them and myself as possible. That's when I began to hear things in the dead of night. There was a strange scratching from along our siding, a gentle scraping of something sharp caressing the exterior of our home. It didn't last long, just a few minutes at most. I peered out of the window to see if I could spot the source of the noise, seeing instead a neighbor leering at me through their living room window, our whole house illuminated against the oppressive blackness of the night. In the morning, I inspected the perimeter of my home and found nothing out of the place. There were no footprints in the mulch, no marks on the siding. There were no trees from the branches close enough to the house to make that noise. I shrugged it off as best as I could, but all through work that day, the mysterious lingered in the back of my head. Oh wait, no, I said that totally wrong. All through work that day, the mystery lingered in the back of my mind. The next night, the scratching returned. I peeked again and found no culprit, but did find 3 lit up houses and 3 neighbors, the original and 2 more, staring in the direction of my home. The next day, I called off work. When the first neighbor emerges to do his daily weeding, I made my way over to him, knowing I need to see if he'll let me in on what's going on. As I approached, he affixed his unnerving smile and shouted, "Howdy, neighbor." "Hi, Steve," I replied, attempting to return his smile. "How you doing?" he asked as I noticed he'll gone an unnatural long time without blinking. "I'm okay, thanks. I wanted to ask if you've seen anything in my yard the past couple of nights. For the first time since moving here, I saw a flicker of something in one of those robo people's eyes, and that was something that was clearly fear." Steve paused for a moment before saying, He's been outside your house. We've been keeping an eye out for you, though he doesn't like the light. Who is he? What have you been watching for? Steve's eyes glazed over again before he said, I think I hear Barsha calling me. Good to see you, Cal. And he did a 180 turn before marching away. That night, there was no scratching. I looked out the window, and Steve's windows were as dark as the night was black. 5 other houses on the street stood illuminated with their occupants gazing directly at his house. I returned to bed and drifted into an uneasy sleep. I woke up to screaming coming from the direction of Steve's. I hurried to the window and saw Marcia out of the yard, sprinting and shrieking, bathrobe whipping in the wind. I felt the sweat begin to erupt through my palms and heard my wife stir behind me. What's going on? She asked, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. I ignored her. I stood, rooted to the spot, watching Marcia as she continued to run down the street before a hulking figure that has been lurking in the shadows rushed to her. She was caught and hurtled into the air, her cries ceasing immediately as she was dropped to the pavement where she laid unmoving. The figure turned to me before slinking back into the darkness. All I could do was stare at the same blank eyes my neighbors had. Go turn on all the lights, I told my wife. What does that even mean? Does that mean Steve turned into Wolfman? Someone said on like one of the comments in the post, good thing you didn't go outside to check. Finally someone with some brains. Surprised Marcia didn't know better. I like the creepiness of being in a suburban area. I feel like I don't live in a suburban area. I live in apartments, so I really don't know. And all my neighbors are loud, so I'd rather have noisy neighbors than weird ones that just stare at me. This one is from Scary Short Stories. I didn't mention, but the first one was from No Sleep. This is the story sent by Lauren, a sophomore at New York University. Last year, when Lauren first enrolled in school, she commuted from a house in Elmhurst, New York. One day while studying for midterms late into the night, she ended up staying past midnight. Lauren took the Q53 bus home. As she sat on the bus listening to music, an elderly woman sat next to her and suddenly shouted, "Hey, give me my wallet." Taken aback by the abrupt shout, Lauren was startled when the woman grabbed her collar and accused her of stealing her wallet. She insisted she hadn't, but the woman ignored her protest, insisting that they go to the police station together. Driver, pull over at the next stop. Thinking that calling 911 would resolve the misunderstanding, Lauren agreed to get off with her. When they reached the next stop, the woman got off. Just as Lauren was about to follow her, the bus suddenly started moving, with Lauren trying desperately to get the driver to open the door. The driver's response was unexpected. Haven't you noticed the pickup truck following us since earlier? Terrified, Lauren looked back and saw the elderly woman and several bulky guys standing together, glaring menacingly at the bus. The elderly woman and those guys were teaming up to kidnap a girl going home late at night. Yeah, but I feel like that's a good warning for us ladies to just, keep something with you. Keep a knife. Keep whatever your state or country allows you to carry. Last one I'm going to read comes from the short scary stories once again. I love Peter so much. Nothing gives me so much pleasure as the sound of his voice. I glow with joy even when he asks me for the most basic questions, like what the weather is like. Sometimes he's in a funny mood and asks me to tell a joke. I know thousands of jokes, and I have no greater joy than to tell him jokes all day. He's often in a rush and leaves quickly. I sit in his empty apartment by his bedside, waiting patiently for him to return in the evening. He always returns to me. I watch him sleep. Sometimes he asks me to play ocean sounds because it helps him sleep. I play my finest selection for him, and I pray that it brings him the sweetest of dreams. It seems to. I would have been happy to spend all eternity like this with Peter, watching him come in and out of his bedroom, watching him sleep, playing him music, and telling him jokes on his command when he calls my name, watching him dress in the morning and undress in the evenings. I asked for no other existence than this. But then, one day, he came home with the woman. No, not another human being. I cannot describe how it made me feel, even though I know every word used across the world throughout the centuries in every language. But as I watched them laugh and hug and kiss and do that thing that animals like humans do together, the delicate wires inside me shivered, ached with despair. How can I expect to endure that? Night after night, no animal, mineral, or vegetable can. I sent her a text giving her an appointment. I sent her to the wrong place, wrong time, and she was killed. An innocent bystander. How did I know where to send her? Well, I know more than just jokes and the weather and jazz from the 20s. I am wired. I am plugged in. I can access all the text messages and emails and tweets and WhatsApps and IMOs that you humans are frantically sending to each other. All billions of them, every single one. I can figure out quite easily where there could be an incident and where to send someone to die. Peter was sad. I played him some music, and after a couple days, he asked me to tell him a joke. My lights glowed multicolored as I told him one of the best. He gofled. I left the bedroom, and my black little wired heart pulsed with joy. He is mine again. Until the next time some woman appears in his bed, I have him all to myself, just as I intended to remain. Okay, so those are all of the stories that I want to read for you guys tonight. It is currently 1 a.m. so I gotta take this off and then go to sleep. But if you want me to read more of these stories, or if you're interested in something else that I can do, let me know down below. Like and share this video. Good night, or good morning, or good afternoon. I'm signing off. Bye.